going to impeach the motherfucker.
Wow. Back on the Bernie and Sid show, heard everywhere on the 77 WABC app. And, of course, it is approaching 6:40. It's 6:37 right now. But this is the time every Friday we set aside for our friend from Meet the Press. That's why you hear that music, that inspiring music. He's on Meet the Press daily at 5 o'clock on MSNBC. And Sunday morning, of course, is Meet the Press. Chuck Todd, you're on the Bernie and Sid show. Good morning to you, Chuck.
Good morning. I feel like you treat it like walk-up music for me.
It is.
It's not quite like Baby Shark, but you know.
Well, Chuck, listen, some serious stuff. We had doubts whether or not you were going to make it this morning. Thought maybe all the champagne popping over at MSNBC and NBC might have kept you away from us, but we're glad to have you. And seeing how we do...
We're a news organization. We don't do that. But that may be how other news organizations work, but that's not us.
Okay.
I understand the little passive-aggressive tack there, but, I'm not here to be a punching bag.
Well, let me ask you that. Let me ask you a serious question. Last spring, Nancy Pelosi, she said that impeachment should be bipartisan, evidence should be overwhelming, and it should be backed by the American people. She has none of that. Now, has the pressure from these ISIS pride-like congresswomen and all the other radicals affected her decision? What has changed since she said that?
I think what's changed is the president's own sort of, I don't know what you would call it, but sort of aggressiveness, arrogance, sort of dismissiveness of Congress. I mean, I think the fact that he conducted this entire thing as he was being investigated by Mueller, I mean, it shows he didn't take any of this seriously. I mean, look, at the end of the day, the president brought this on himself. He didn't take any, he doesn't, I have an idea of how he thinks about this in this respect. He comes at this believing nothing is on the level. Donald Trump has believed nothing is on his level pretty much since he started as an adult. And so when you come at something that nothing's on the level and you believe that nobody's on the level, then you don't think anything you do, whether someone else might label it as corrupt, you're like, everybody's corrupt. My corruption is no different than anybody else.
What's his crime?
But the fact of the matter is, he's using his office in a way that is absolutely against what the Constitution and what the founders wanted. And while you may think that the motive is, that isn't what he meant or that isn't what he did, you got to know what was in his head. The fact is he's misusing his office in a way that no other president has done.
You just said it. So you got to know what's in his head. How do you know that?
But at the same, but his refusal, it doesn't matter his actions. The thing is that there's been a lot of people that says, it matters what's in his head. No, it matters what he did and what his actions are. And so, look, if he had just cooperated in some form with Congress, one of two things would have happened, and maybe this is what he was fearing. One would have been maybe it would have become more bipartisan, and the outrage would have become more bipartisan when they saw some of the facts that were produced. Or two, it would have appeased enough moderate Democrats who would have gone to Pelosi saying, you know what, we're not for this. But that isn't how this worked out. I mean, I really think that we're in this situation. The president made his own bed. At the end of the day, the president made his own bed, and that's why we're here.
Okay, fair enough. And you and Todd have that opinion, Chuck, obviously, but I don't think when James Rosen, Chuck, asked Nancy Pelosi yesterday, do you hate the president? And she went off on this whole tangent and included God and prayer and all that nonsense. I don't think that was such an out-of-bounds question because maybe, not you, Chuck, and some of your colleagues maybe really believe he did something really bad here, but there is no question that a ton of media members and politicians just don't like this guy. It's not about business; it's personal.
Here's what I don't get: why is it that people take such offense, Trump supporters in this grievance wing of his party these days, or whatever this version of the party is, this grievance thing, where there's this, oh my God, I can't believe someone took this shot at the president. This is a guy who character assassinates on an hourly basis on Twitter.
True.
Who goes after people, who's demeaning, who's dehumanizing.
Okay.
And someone makes a pun about his son's name, and you would think the sky fell. Again, if Donald Trump was such an angel about how he treated other people, he might get some empathy here. But it's sort of an absurd notion that somehow he's a victim and that somehow that's what an abuser
Yeah, but
does.
these are two different things you're talking about here. You're arguing two different things.
Oh my God, you hit me back. How dare you?
Yeah, but you're arguing two different things. I don't even disagree with what you just said about Donald Trump and about his demeanor. That has nothing to do with whether or not he's broken the law, whether it's the Russia nonsense, this nonsense. You're right about some things you say about. I agree with you. At least Bun does, and I do.
Sid, it's a part of fitness for offense. I mean, this idea. Look, there is no. The reason the founders put in high crimes and misdemeanors is simply throwing in the catch-all because they knew there were some things that were unique only to the president that would essentially be a crime against the country in a way that no other individual commits a crime in that sense. So that's why, this bogus standard was, unless an actual law was broken, no, the whole point of the impeachment standard was there were certain things that were presidential only and that are essentially crimes against what the country is about. There isn't a law about that. That's what the Constitution is.
Wait, listen, there's nothing wrong with him asking to look into corruption from a former vice president. I mean, it was conspicuously corrupt on its face.
Number two, then go to the American authorities.
Well, speaking of that,
Bernie,
Chuck,
none of this is credible to me because not once has he gone to the American authorities. And number two, the fact that he wanted a public investigation.
Presidents have been making these.
He only cared if it was a public investigation.
It was supposed to be an off the record.
Cared about corruption. If he actually cared about corruption, he wouldn't have demanded that they announce an investigation. I mean, come on, man.
He didn't demand that they announce an investigation. Listen, Chuck, Todd from Meet the Press, you say the president hasn't cooperated. What you're saying essentially is that he hasn't allowed his staff members to testify in front of Adam Bullshift's dopey committee. But the point is this. He's invoking executive privilege, which he's entitled to do. He's invoking executive privilege. Jonathan Turley said take him to court. Why don't they?
At the end of it, they have taken him to court, and they keep winning these court cases, and the President of the United States...
not for Mulvaney, not for Bolton, not for Pompeo. That's who they're talking about.
They have because they're all the same case, Bernie.
No, because they don't want to wait. They don't want to wait. And they'll lose this case.
To find out from McGahn, I don't think they're going to lose.
They would lose executive privilege. McGahn is entitled to invoke executive privilege in front of that court, in front of that investigation.
Mick Mulvaney gave up privilege when he admitted to the quid pro quo in public. So there isn't a good privilege argument here. But at the end of the day, look, you may not like Adam Schiff.
Take him to court.
And the left may not like Donald Trump. But the Constitution of the United States gave Trump his authority and gave Adam Schiff his authority, whether you like it or not.
That's true.
So the point is this. The inability of the president not to cooperate with Congress, it doesn't matter what you think of Adam Schiff, and it doesn't matter what anybody thinks of Donald Trump. Follow the law. And the fact is the president has avoided this.
Not according to Jonathan Turley.
Well, Jonathan Turley...
who voted for Obama and Hillary.
Jonathan Turley is also the same guy that has the exact opposite rationale 20 years ago. It's sort of like whatever rationale the Republican House members need, he'll give it. He gave one rationale 20 years ago, literally made the exact opposite argument 20 years later. So I'm not sure how credible Jonathan Turley is. I actually agree, though, with when he says, hey, there's more to investigate here. Because that, to me, is what I think Democrats are
and that's his question. Why don't they do it? Take him to court.
Is that they are in court. Bernie, that's what the whole McGahn thing is about. McGahn's ruling is going to hit Bolton, Cooperman, Mulvaney, all of them. It is the same court case. That precedent, when it makes it to the Supreme Court, is going to rule all of them.
Here's the problem with this whole thing.
Not in time.
We already know the end of the movie. I mean, I don't know about you, Chuck. I love the movies. I know you like the movies, Chuck. I know that. But could you imagine going to a movie and knowing the end before you see it? I mean, they're going to impeach him in the House. He's not going to be impeached in the Senate. He's going to win re-election. And it's going to be just a monumental waste of time and money again.
Here's the thing on the Senate trial. I think no one's ever going to agree to the parameters of the trial. I have a feeling that I don't think the president all of my reporting indicates that the posture of saying they want a trial is a public posture. They're going to do every maneuver possible to prevent a trial from happening because they're going to demand certain things from the trial that your Mitt Romneys and your Susan Collinses are never going to agree to, like bringing up Joe Biden or Hunter Biden or all these little absurd, or, subpoenaing. I mean, look, even Lindsey Graham said, hey, we're not subpoenaing phone records of members of Congress. You go down that road and everybody will start subpoenaing everybody. And I think he's right about that. There's somebody that's thinking about the institution and putting that above this partisanship.
So what Adam Schiff did was wrong, getting Devin Nunes's phone records?
He didn't get them. It came through your boy Giuliani and Parnas.
He got them from AT&T.
I mean, it was right. That's what I said. It didn't go after those two on that, but it came from Parnas. So why was Devin Nunes? They didn't know he was going to end up talking to an indicted associate of Rudy Giuliani's that was his sidekick going to Ukraine.
So it's okay for Devin Nunes to do it, but it's not okay for the Republicans.
Devin Nunes, here's what I'm curious. Why didn't Devin Nunes disclose that he might be sort of compromised on the entire investigation? And if I were a fellow House Republican and I found out that guy, as the ranking member who was supposedly in charge of the defense of the president, and he's withholding that information and none of us knew this information and made us all look like fools backing him up, I'd resent what Nunes did. His lack of disclosure on
but you've been missing
a political problem for his own party. He's now brought legal jeopardy to himself, and frankly, I think he undermined the president's defense.
Well, I think you're ignoring the point, which is that Adam Schiff went after Devin Nunes's private phone calls, his public and private phone. Well, he did. He got them.
He got it through.
And you're saying that the Republicans shouldn't go down that road. Now, look, let me ask, speaking of the Republicans,
Devin Nunes is on Lev Parnas' cell phone sheet, who is an indicted.
But you don't even know that. Nobody knows that.
On Adam Schiff?
Nobody knows what was in the phone calls or who talked to who. They know that.
Nobody knows.
But Schiff went after the phone.
Their metadata.
Look, if the impeachment in the trial, they call Joe Biden. He already says he will not comply. Is that obstruction of justice? Because the Democrat standard says that it is.
Well, if an official subpoena is issued to Joe Biden and he ignores it, of course it's an obstruction. But guess what? Good luck seeing if the Republican Senate will abide by this sort of by these sort of strange circus-like requests to do this. It ain't going to happen. I mean, my point is this: the demand that the White House legal team is going to make on Senate Republicans for what rules they want for the Senate trial. I just have a theory. I know everybody thinks the Senate trial is going to happen. I have a theory this trial may not ever happen, simply because the two sides will never be able to find 51 votes to come to an agreement that will satisfy both sides of it.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to happen. The Republicans have the votes.
In a weird look, I think a trial is something that is much more of a political problem for Republicans and Democrats. I think a trial is much riskier on the right. We'll see, but I think it is.
All right, Big Chuck. Enjoy your 5 o'clock show on MSNBC today.
Right,
who's on Sunday, Chuck? Anybody big?
I'm not sure if I'm allowed. It's somebody you guys actually will enjoy. And I say this, I'm not being facetious. But I'm not sure if I'm allowed to promote it yet. But it's somebody who we haven't heard from a while, but was a frequent 2016er.
Okay, cool.
Right.
All right, my man. Have a great weekend. Good to talk to you, buddy.
All right, guys.
All right, take care. Chuck Todd, MTP Daily, every afternoon at 5 p.m. on MSNBC, and Meet the Press on Sundays on NBC. Bernie and Sid on a Friday. We'll be right back.